Wow, unreal. My gosh. This is amazing! I feel incredible! Yes, 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 yes! I can win! I feel great! I can do this! Ugh!
What do you remember about growing up? I remember a lot of TV. I remember after a long day at school, there was appointment television. Any day of the week. Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Saturday mornings. But the most valued was Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. on Toonami was a show I could not miss, or I would have a complete meltdown. Of course, I'm talking about this was everything to me. This was my favorite TV show growing up. Speaking on the fact that I have done a complete rewatch, I can comfortably say it still sits nicely in my top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. Dragon Ball Z was that kind of special experience. Unique only that you can experience as a child, which I think everyone can understand to some degree. It was something special that taught you morality, showed you right from wrong, and also scratched that inner itch of anger. That sounds like a corny joke, I know, but I am 100% serious about this. And it became more apparent after the death of its creator, Akira Toriyama. Dragon Ball Z gave me a lot of fundamentals that bridged me into the person I was going to become. I had to pay tribute to a show that has this reputation, a show that meant so much not only to me, but thousands, millions of kids that loved this show for the last 40 years. To peel back the layers, to see if this show was more than just superficial action and people screaming. Because I think there is a fundamental truth that we all need to scream out loud.
Perhaps it is my anger that has made me blind to the truth for so long. I see it now. This day has made it all too clear. You're better than me, Kakarot. You are the best.
The story of Dragon Ball is a simple adventure quest of a teenager that comes across a monkey.
Lousy, no good saying, monkey!
Thank you. Boy in the woods. The boy possesses one of the 7 mystical Dragon Balls. When gathered together, you can summon the eternal dragon that will grant you any wish within its power. Pretty basic premise. Along the way, they meet new friends, rivals, that all want the same thing. The first 13 episodes are fun, very much like Avatar: The Last Airbender, if I was to equate it to something more recent. After those initial 13 episodes, there's a pivot for what Dragon Ball ultimately becomes, from an adventure show into an action one. The very next episode, Goku ventures out to train with the Grandmaster Turtle Hermit. There, he meets his rival, and eventual best friend, Krillin.
Whoa, Mondo, cool!
Together, they train to become stronger, meet their next challenge to either face off one of two things. Either a World Martial Arts tournament, or a big bad to punch. And that becomes the core plot element for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z going forward. Yes, from time to time they dabble back into the old school adventures like the original 13 episodes, but usually as the formula goes, Goku trains to get stronger and shows up to save the day. Even with the tournaments, more times than not, the big bad will eventually reveal themselves or kick off a whole new arc. That's it at its basic bare bones form. There was a lot of fascinating character work with each new challenge. Even when you look at the actual layout of the story, it is all fairly simple. But it works. Even after all these years, it's a formula that kept fans hooked. Why? I like to think it's the beauty of simplicity. In terms of story, Dragon Ball Z is a direct continuation to Dragon Ball. Same story, same characters, just higher stakes, concepts, and revelations. Goku, as a character, is a fascinating one. I sometimes equate him as our modern-day Superman. In Dragon Ball Z, we learn the truth that Goku is from a warrior race called Saiyans, an alien that was sent to Earth as his planet was destroyed. Sound familiar? Most of this is a retcon. In the beginning of Dragon Ball, Goku would transform into a giant ape at the sight of a full moon with no explanation why. But now we have one. Goku as a hero, he's good-natured. He is kind, naive, and loves unconditionally. but the thing he loves more than anything is a good fight. He always strives to do his best, which, as a hero that defends Earth, is arguably a good quality, and why he continuously saves the world. It's simply because he never gives up. Goku as a person, well, that's a whole other matter. Surprisingly, controversial depending who you ask. It's heavily debated if Goku is a good husband, or even a good father. He does want to share his love of fighting with his loved ones. It is the one thing he is most passionate about. Fighting is what brought him and his wife Chi-Chi together. Fighting is what truly bonded him and his son Gohan, pushing Gohan to greater heights than he could ever believe. But eventually both Gohan and Chi-Chi get over it. Gohan has a fascination with it, but he isn't passionate about it, other than it's something to bond with his dad. Or at least it's what's expected of him. Chi-Chi, all she wants is to live a quiet life to raise her son properly, as it plays up Goku being domesticated. Oh, that's our Goku. He lives as if he has only one purpose, which is admirable, but sadly it's kinda tragic. For better or worse, Goku is a kid at heart. Personally, I think he is more charming as a kid, whereas an adult his behavior is egregious. But he has such an enduring spirit that it's weirdly infectious. He embodies a lot of ideals and inspirations I think a lot of kids were striving for. He has a good moral compass. No matter how powerful he is, he believes in mercy. He believes in second chances even for the worst of his enemies. He's the guy that pushes beyond what is possible. We see him excel. We see him push forward. We saw what he could accomplish, and makes us believe we can too.
You... What are you?
I am the hope of the universe. I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace.
I am not a big anime guy. There are a few that I adore, but in terms of actually being a fan, it begins and ends with Dragon Ball. I know I'm not the only one. It does beg the question, what is it about Dragon Ball specifically that makes it so universally beloved? It may have to do with the fact of our long-standing fascination with martial arts. Looking back at the days of samurai films, Bruce Lee flicks, David Carradine in Kung Fu, Karate Kid, there is some kind of appeal that is in the public consciousness. Narratively speaking, Dragon Ball isn't that complicated of a show. It sounds scary with a bunch of power levels.
It's over 9,000!
And alien races, but it's really not any harder to follow than good guy versus bad guy. From time to time, our heroes go collect the Dragon Balls and use them as a reset button.
Everybody heard me say reset button, right?
You know, people die, buildings burn, and as an escalation of an evil threat that causes major repercussions. There are legitimate arguments to be made if there really is any drama, any real sense of consequences. That's where I argue all the character work and action come into play. When Goku meets his first rival and eventual best friend Krillin, they train together with Master Roshi. Krillin naturally is competing with Goku and even tries to outwit him. Goku will always strive to do his best, putting in the hard work with no easy way out. He wants to earn what is given. Krillin tries to manipulate and cheat his way, and there are natural consequences, but eventually Krillin learns to better himself as Goku sets a standard that Krillin follows. Honestly, it's why Krillin is one of my favorite characters. He's a real one. Loyal, absolutely loyal, even when he is in way over his head. As a result, both characters have not only looked after each other, but their families that they have built. In a critical moment, arguably of the entire series, Krillin has an opportunity to put down the big bad after this guy has killed every single one of their friends that we have grown to know and love. Goku pleads with Krillin to let Vegeta live. That act of kindness leads to a partnership with Vegeta and the rest of the cast that affects everything going forward. Goku and Vegeta, man, is there a better dynamic duo? I do say that unironically. Vegeta starts as one of the most irredeemable, despicable characters on the show, limited in his malice purely by his own strength. Vegeta, the Prince of all Saiyans, a little boy who lost his father, his kingdom, his entire planet. As such, he believes himself to be the strongest of his race, until a peasant proves otherwise, humiliating him not only by his sheer existence, but by reaching levels of strength that was believed to be reserved for the best of the best, the elite. Vegeta constantly struggles with not only trying to be better than Goku, but with who he is. Slowly but surely, Vegeta becomes domesticated and has a hard time to accept the reality of who he is. He was raised by tyrants, plus mixed with his own entitled arrogance, thrown in a slice of humble pie and kindness from his inferiors, he starts to fundamentally change. My favorite moment is in the first time he dies. Yeah, it's one of those shows. He has this amazing moment of vulnerability. You see Vegeta for who he really is. Goku finally sees the man for who he is, that his viciousness was something exploited by those in his life and it became second nature to him. The overall theme is aspiration. Goku is always aspiring to go as far as he can. With Vegeta, he finds a rival that he can have a healthy competition with. They push each other to go beyond their limits, not just in a physical sense, but an emotional one too. In the last saga, the Buu saga, my favorite saga, there's a lot of struggles in Vegeta. He willingly allows himself to be mind controlled, just to indulge his former ways of being an asshole. Just so he can feel a semblance of being an equal, if not better than Goku, because he believed he was at his best when he was emotionally detached. It takes him a minute, but his priorities get realigned as he remembers what is important to him, and makes a big sacrifice, even accepting the fact that he wouldn't go to the good place. Together with Goku, they tackle Buu in his various forms, through different means to fight him in various locations. This solidifies the teamwork of the two of them, and it also positions them both as co-leads going forward in the sequel series. Dragon Ball Z, from a narrative standpoint, ends on that note with Goku finding a successor. But the series going forward, which is worth noting, each sequel series, Dama and Super, take place before the last scene in Dragon Ball Z, which is basically a huge time jump. It can be argued, as much as Goku was trying to find a successor, he could equally want someone to be his rival and partner. The dynamic is wonderful because Goku is naturally strong and works hard to reach his new plateaus. Vegeta is always playing catch-up. That's something that can be understood by most. That humble reminder, no matter how entitled you are, there is always someone better.
You may have invaded my mind and my body, but there's one thing a Saiyan always keeps. His pride!
Dragon Ball is universal, that anybody can understand and relate to. It's a story about perseverance and endurance, physically, mentally, and emotionally. You see these characters as they thrive to adapt, to change, and regardless of their motives, to better themselves. Many characters that started as antagonists end up turning into heroes. Well, to some extent. Piccolo and Vegeta were, at a time, main villains. The whole shebang. Killed innocents, wanted to rule the universe. But their character turns come from a different angle, of the same foundation, a cultural one. They both have dealt with prejudice, tyranny, and oppression, Frieza being the uniting example of this. To be frank, if you want a great sense of Dragon Ball Z, it begins and ends with the Frieza saga. Goku, Piccolo, and Vegeta gain a deeper exploration of their roots and who they are in this saga. I am Mexican, with some English, Irish, and Scandinavian roots, so I am mixed. Growing up, I was called out for being white by Mexicans, and I was called out for being Mexican by whites. It's something I didn't really think about too much, not until I was much older, as I tried to get more in touch with my roots, that constant reminder of who you are and where you come from. I was similar to Goku. I had a hard time having loyalty and appreciation for my culture, and like Goku, naturally, our culture would constantly creep in to remind us who we are. In Goku's early years, he's a boy that lives out in the forest with a monkey tail, and an insane amount of strength. That seems to naturally get stronger after each battle, and for some reason, every full moon, he would transform into a giant ape. Not until his adulthood, Goku learns the truth about his origins, that he is of a warrior race called Saiyans. Saiyans have a natural lust for battle, and are rewarded for that lust. After near death, they become naturally stronger. Even though Goku doesn't share his people's natural taste for destruction, he loves to fight. He loves the idea of becoming stronger. The idea of Saiyans have a very powerful stand-in for a lot of people in their cultures. Saiyans are proud. They are posed as natural threats because of their inclination for strength and endurance, which results in a mass genocide, including the destruction of their entire planet by Frieza, as he was deeply afraid of them and what they could become, a Super Saiyan, a legendary warrior known to be the strongest in the galaxy. That idea of representation based on real-life stories of prejudice, struggle, and oppression, it hits different through the guise of fiction, through that lens of pop culture. Ideally, it's exposed to us in childhood and it sticks with us, whether we're fully aware of it or not. There are different layers with the Saiyans, between Goku, Vegeta, and Goku's son, Gohan. Goku represents his culture with a huge disassociation, but everything he is informed by his people unconsciously. Vegeta represents the pride of his culture, believing to bear the torch despite being put down, minimized, and even decimated. All he knows is he feels immense pride for who he is and where he came from, with that yearning to be the one that carried on the legacy of his people. Then there's Gohan, who is mixed, half human, half Saiyan, and has a particularly interesting dynamic with Vegeta. Even though Vegeta is a villain for a quarter of the series, he has a reverence for Gohan. Gohan is the last of their people. Vegeta treats that seriously and takes an interest in his progression as a warrior. Saiyans are not the only ones. My favorite character, Piccolo, is also an interesting note about representation. Piccolo went through it, like Vegeta, starting out as a villain, world domination, yada yada yada. During the first season of Dragon Ball Z, Piccolo takes care of Gohan and gets in touch with his emotions, and gradually he chills the fuck out. Initially, it was for the sake of the world, but like Goku, Piccolo has little to no idea about his heritage, until he gets a passing reference from Vegeta.
I'm from Namek.
When he returns to his home planet, he gains an understanding how peaceful his people are. Sickened their lives were destroyed by a tyrant, that same drag queen icon of a tyrant. Piccolo has a similar scene with Nail like Goku with Vegeta. Nail pleads with Piccolo to honor their people. Unlike Goku, I think this scene fundamentally changes Piccolo. When Vegeta makes his plea, Goku was always going to fight and get stronger. That's Goku's nature. His lineage isn't as much of a personal factor for him as much as it happens to help him get stronger. Piccolo, as mentioned, he gets soft because of Gohan, but then after talking to Nail, fusing with him, it teaches him a lot about the sanctity of life. He fights for more than just selfish reasons. Not only understanding the emotions better than most of the Z warriors, but he is more intuitive to the people around him.
You should thank Krillin, 18. He stayed at your side the whole time after Cell spat you out.
I let you die. I can't do that. I won't watch anymore. I feel it slipping. And I won't watch this anymore!
Since the dawn of time, violence has been as natural as life itself. From the creatures to use a weapon, gladiator matches, animals, car chases, wrestling, horror, martial arts, there is an emotional baseline that we get invested in. Whether it's for survival or serotonin, the pure basic fundamental, who is going to win, what is going to happen, there's a cathartic release. I find this to be true in most forms of media, like heavy metal, and by extension, the mosh pit. I love heavy metal. It's such a comfortable space to hone in your irrational anger with middle fingers up to society, to your mental health, to your depression, a solid fuck you to the world. Traced back from Ozzy, Slayer, Marilyn Manson, Slipknot, the list goes on. It's cleansing to scream lyrics in your room, headbanging or pushing and shoving out in the mosh pit. It's why I don't think it was an accident that Dragon Ball Z has such a close relationship with that community. Hell, most of the movies have soundtracks featuring a lot of heavy metal. I mean... I'm a casual wrestling fan. When I gave it a genuine chance, I quickly discovered on how easy it was to be emotionally invested. A prime example that I had the chance to experience from beginning to end was the Hollywood ending with Mariah May and Timeless Tony Storm. The story took about a year and change to tell.
It starts simply enough, with Mariah as a newly signed wrestler, eager to please and latches onto Tony for guidance. As the two pair up and become a duo, Mariah makes her move to betray her so she can win the women's championship, which she does. As Mariah reigns as champion, Tony goes into hiding for a time until she makes her grand return and embarrasses Mariah. That's when things truly escalate, when Mariah went from a cold stone bitch to unhinged, and they declare their final match, the Hollywood ending. Both performers go all in, and the reason I'm talking about this is because not only is there an overview story, but there's a storytelling in their actions in the fight. Both performers are telling a story in their actions. Tony is fierce and determined to take back what was stolen, ready to meet every challenge as the match escalates, while Mariah crumbles with each new challenge, really building up the narrative of this good versus evil. You could see those same kind of layers in Dragon Ball Z. When it came to a show that's all about violence, there's an emotional catharsis in the screaming and storytelling in the punching. A prime example is Gohan vs. Perfect Cell. This fight is the epitome of how genuinely powerful and cathartic Dragon Ball Z can be. Perfect Cell, as the name suggests, is the supposed perfect lifeform, an amalgamation of every powerful character up to that point in Dragon Ball's history. Gohan, the son of Goku, naturally as powerful just like his father, but he doesn't have the desire to become stronger. Throughout the series, he would have spurts of outstanding strength, usually standing up to a lot of the big bads, mostly when he would get triggered, going into a blind fit of rage to defend those he loves, but it was never sustainable. It would go just as quickly as it came about. Early in the arc, it is hinted that Gohan would be the one, as Goku does a lot to prop him up. In maybe the most insane moment in the show, midway through what is believed to be the climactic battle between Goku and Cell, Goku up and quits, and tags in his 10-year-old son. Gohan does it simply because his dad asked him to. Piccolo, Gohan's real father, protests in disgust of what Goku has done. Honestly, that is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show.
Gohan may have that power, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't thirst for battle and mayhem. He's not a fighter like you.
Huh?
Do you want to know what he's thinking? He's not thinking about strength or about competition. He's wondering why his father is standing there, letting him die. And so your son may be the most powerful person in the world, but he's also a scared 11-year-old boy.
The entire emotional arc is Cell, drunk off his arrogance to prove his perfection by poking the bear, pushing Gohan to his absolute limit to unleash his true potential. When that actually happens, it's more than what Cell bargained for. However, it's a double-edged sword. As Gohan clearly has the advantage, he too revels in his own arrogance by toying with Cell for most of the fight. In an act of desperation, Cell pulls a Hail Mary and Goku ultimately has to pay the price. And it is over. Or is it? Cell comes back better than ever with a surprise attack, killing a Z-Warrior and crippling Gohan, leading to one of the best moments in the entire show, when everyone comes together to help fight Cell as Goku coaches Gohan to give him that final push to defeat the ultimate evil. Gohan is unique compared to every other character in the series. He's the only character with a somewhat normal upbringing. Yes, he goes on adventures with his friends. Yes, he spent a year out in the wild watched over by a green man. But his mom constantly fights for him to study, to make something of himself, fulfilling to live a normal mundane life outside of martial arts. Sure, he has potential, but it was never instinctive. It showcases in the first saga against the Saiyans when literally almost every other character dies, left with only Piccolo, Krillin, and Gohan. And Gohan chokes. He isn't a born-bred fighter. I think on some subconscious level, we as children that watched the show understood Gohan. We understood the mundane routine. We understood the taste of adventure, wanting to participate but also having to overcome that fear and anxiety. We understood the instinctive, irrational anger that takes over to do the right thing. I think that's why Gohan becoming the Ascended Saiyan, the thing that all the characters were striving for, was such a big moment. That it was given to Gohan, not Vegeta, not Trunks, not even Goku, but Gohan gets that moment.
Well, it was nothing, really. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I am a grown-ass man. I still, to this day, love Dragon Ball Z. In preparation for this, I watched the entire show, all 291 episodes, and it still holds up for me. I understand its charm and appeal. In the era of nostalgia and embrace your inner nerd for adulthood, Dragon Ball Z is not something I cling to because of childhood. There is a relevancy in my adulthood as it was relevant to my childhood. I'm one of many. It means so many things for so many different people, and I want to test that out. I wanted to wrap this segment up to answer some questions from the listeners. Friends over at the Power of Friendship podcast asked, favorite transformation? My mind went to different places for different characters. Like, I love Piccolo as the Super Namek. Even though there isn't any superficial change, his attitude change is so cool. One of Boo's transformation, Kid Buu, is my favorite form. But transformation specifically, I have to go with Super Saiyan 2. I think it's the cleanest and sharpest look. Listener Tom Trainer followed up with, Dragon Ball is known for its iconic transformations. Which transformation do you think worked on a narrative level aside from just being cool? I always saw the transformations in any capacity as a personal change and growth. I think it never gets better than the first time Goku turns into a Super Saiyan, followed by Gohan. Both of them have an emotional foundation that are both iconic and emotionally resonant. Tom also asked, what are your thoughts on the wishes as a narrative device? Some people think it's a boring Deus Ex Machina, but I think it gave Toriyama the option to be creative with the storytelling, like the way two different dragons' wishes are used to save people in the Frieza saga. I always joke that wishes serve as a cleanup crew, or as a reset button, but when Dragon Ball first started, the wishes from the characters were frivolous. A boyfriend, a girlfriend, the most comfortable pair of underwear. As the show escalated the dynamic of good versus evil, as such, evil wanted the same thing, immortality, and the good guys just wanted to use them to clean up. So I view it less as a Deus Ex Machina, but as part of the narrative of good versus evil. Evil always wants the same thing, as good always wants the same thing. Thank you guys so much for watching and for asking questions, and a particular shout out to Tom Trainer for advocating for me to do this video. Dragon Ball Z was not on my short list of video essays, and Tom consistently asked me to do this. And shout out to Geek History Lesson, they allowed me to host an episode on Dragon Ball Z, and after that episode, I was kind of able to figure out the structure of my video, and it all sort of came together. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and until the next one.